we give you our 3 best bets for Week 8 of college football, and it all starts right now. What's up, Grandstand Bettors family? It's Matt from GrandstandBettors.com, and we're back with our college football free picks for week number 8. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. You don't want to miss any of our upcoming free picks, predictions, and contests throughout the year. And while you're at it, smash that like button if you are ready for some more top 25 matchups in college football. I know we are. So, without further ado, let's dive into our first matchup of Saturday and talk about the number 14 Syracuse Orangemen and number 5 Clemson Tigers in the 12 p.m. time slot. Clemson here favored by 13.5 points. The over-under set at 49.5 at the moment. Now, the Syracuse Orange football team, they are 6-0 for the first time since 1987. I was 4 years old back then. They have come a long way over the past decade of atrocious football, though, and a lot of that can be attributed to Syracuse's defense. Not only do they have one of the best secondaries in college football, which is ranked 12th in the country, they also have the 11th best run defense, only giving up 95 yards per game. Combined, that ranks them 8th in the country overall, and they are only giving up 13.2 points per game, which is ranked in the top 10 also in college football. Now, the first 5 weeks was against some pretty easy opponents, but they really made a statement last week against NC State when they beat them 24-9 at home, holding the Wolfpack offense to only 255 yards all game. With that production from their defensive unit, it has made things very easy for their offense to help them win games, although their offense been performing at a high level as well this season thanks to great quarterback play from Garrett Schrader. He has a 4-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio on the season, and he can also extend plays with his legs. He has 300 rushing yards so far on the year and 5 touchdowns. Combined with their lead back, Sean Tucker's 644 yards and 6 touchdowns, Syracuse has a very solid offense, which could give Clemson some problems in this one. Now, on that other side of the field, the Clemson Tigers, 7-0 on the season, still the team to beat in the ACC because they did survive that Week 4 Wake Forest double overtime game, and since then, a relatively easy time getting through the remainder of the opponents thanks to their offense led by quarterback DJ Uiagalelei. He has thrown for 1,600 yards on the season and 17 touchdowns. He also has thrown only 2 interceptions all season, and like Syracuse's quarterback Schrader, he also has the ability to keep the ball and run it himself. He also has 300 yards rushing and 4 touchdowns. Along with guys like running back Will Shipley and wide receivers Antonio Williams and Bo Collins, this offense is certainly going to be the hard test for that Syracuse defense this season, or the hardest test for them this season. Now, in years past, Clemson's defensive unit is led by their defensive line and linebacker units, which boost this year a 4th best run defense. They also have 17 sacks, and they create a ton of pressure on opposing quarterbacks. They really need that from their line in this one because their secondary is awful. They're giving up 255 passing yards per game, and that isn't even against good teams. It's against like Boston College and Louisiana Tech. Their front 7 cannot generate pressure, or if they can't generate pressure, they're really going to fail like they did against the Wake Forest Demon Deacons, and this team's going to have a hard time stopping Syracuse's offense. Now, Syracuse's offensive line has looked good this season, only allowing 13 sacks through 6 games. They should have what it takes to keep Schrader protected in this one and give him a time to attack that bad Tigers secondary. When you throw in their dual threat rushing attack as well, we think Clemson is going to have a little harder time stopping this offense than one would think. Now, does Syracuse have what it takes to win this game on the road? Probably not, but they should keep this one close. So, with our first bet of college football for this Saturday, we're going to take Syracuse plus 13.5 points over the Clemson Tigers. Now, the next matchup we're going to look at is the number 9 UCLA Bruins versus number 10 Oregon Ducks in the 3:30 Eastern time slot. Ducks 5.5 point favorites here. Over under high 70.5 points at the moment. UCLA Bruins, they're coming off a bye week, heading into this matchup with Oregon, and they're coming off some big wins in week 5 and 6 against Utah and Washington. They're now 9th in the AP Top 25, and they're in great position to make a run for the Pac-12 championship and possibly, just possibly, making that college football playoff. Now, we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, though. The Bruins still have some things to figure out before they get to that point, and one of those things is their defense. They have stepped up well on the line recently, only giving up 99 yards per game on the ground, but their bigger issue is in the secondary. They rank 88th in college football, giving up 245.8 passing yards per game. Against Utah and Washington, they gave up a total of about 900 yards. In their last 4 games as well, they've given up 112 points and have allowed 30 points scored in 3 of those 4 games. They are lucky their offense has been playing well, because if not, this team could easily be 4-2 or 3-3 on the season. Now, speaking of their offense, they're putting up 41.5 points per game. Quarterback Thompson Robinson has thrown for over 1,500 yards with a 74.8 completion percentage. He spreads the ball very well across the field. It makes it very hard for opponents to defend that pass offense. And when you add in the running game that they have, averaging 7.1 yards per carry, it's tough to stop this offense. And UCLA has been fine in just simply outscoring their opponents thus far this season, and it's been working. But this week, on the other side of the field, they face a Ducks team. And ever since that week 1 thrashing they got from Georgia, Oregon has looked much better. They did only beat Washington State by 3 points in week 5, but besides that, they've beaten all of their opponents by 17 points or more. Just like UCLA, the Achilles heel, though, of this team has been their defense. They're giving up 275 passing yards per game, 98 rushing yards per game, and 28 points per game. Teams like Arizona and Stanford put up 49 points combined against their defense, and since losing Thibodeau to the NFL, they have only had 13 sacks on the season. Now, also, just like UCLA, the strength of the Ducks defense has been their offense. Even with only putting up 3 points in week number 1, they're still averaging 42 points per game and over 500 yards of offense. Bo Nix has looked much better since week 1, only thrown 1 interception since that game, and the rushing attack has also been very strong, averaging 7.6 yards per carry between Nix and their top 2 running backs. So, what is our best bet in this game? Well, the question is, will Oregon's defense change drastically since last week? Probably not. This game has high-scoring affair written all over it, and UCLA will stay within striking distance of the Ducks, though. If UCLA does not win this game outright, as we actually think they are the better team here, they should have no problem keeping this one close. So, with our second best bet for Saturday, we're going to take the UCLA Bruins plus 5.5 over the Oregon Ducks. Now, before we get into our third best bet of week number 8, just a reminder, if you're looking for our full card of all of the bets that we actually put on our premium card to our members, check out grandstandbettors.com, become part of our family, and start living that grandstand life. But as we mentioned, we do have one more free pick this week, and it is in prime time on Saturday between number 17 Kansas State and number 8 TCU. Horned Frogs, 3.5-point favorites here. The over-under set at 54.5. And Kansas State comes into this matchup 5-1 on the season. And if it was not for that bad loss in week 4 to Tulane, this is easily a top 10 team like TCU. Ever since beating Oklahoma 2 weeks ago, 41-34, this team has defeated Texas Tech at home and Iowa State on the road in a hard-fought game that came down to a big stop by their defense. And speaking of their defense, that has been a huge part of success this season. They're only giving up 16 points per game. What is more impressive is the fact that they're giving up 354 yards per game, which compared to other teams in college football is not good. But they're ranked 14th in points per game because of how good their red zone defense has been. On the other side of the ball, their offense has struggled a lot at times during the season, but all in all, they've done what they needed to do to win games. Quarterback Adrian Martinez has only thrown the ball for 900 yards this season for 4 touchdowns. This offense, though, is definitely run first, pass second. They have run the ball almost 3 times more than passing. Running back Deuce Vaughn and Martinez, they've rushed for over 1,300 yards and have combined for 12 rushing touchdowns, which is 63% of the team's offensive touchdowns this season. It could not be more apparent what the strength of this team is, and the only team to figure that out so far was Tulane. They got Kansas State to 15 third down situations and forced them to throw the ball. This offense is going to have to be a little more dynamic in this one because they're going up against a solid TCU defense. Now, TCU, speaking of them, they're ranked 8th in the AP poll, 6-0 record on the season, and they had that decisive win over Oklahoma in Week 4 and then defeated Kansas and Oklahoma State the following 2 weeks by 1 score each. This offense, led by Max Duggan, has 1,600 passing yards, 16 touchdowns, and only 1 interception on the season. His favorite wideout so far has been Quentin Johnston, who has 500 receiving yards and a couple of touchdowns. But he also throws the ball to a lot of different receivers. 7 others have touchdown passes from him as well, which tells you how well he can survey that field and find the open man downfield. Just like Kansas State, though, they have a very good rushing attack led by Junior Miller, and Max Duggan also has the ability to keep the ball himself and make plays with his legs. In total, the rushing attack has 20 touchdowns on the season. Big reason why they're averaging 48.5 points per game. Now, on the other side of the football, defensively, TCU, a tough time in their secondary. They've given up 1,600 passing yards this season, and it is a reason why they're giving up 26 points per game. Their run defense has been better, but just like Kansas State, they're giving up over 130 yards on the ground and have not done a good job at establishing a presence at the line, even against teams like SMU and Colorado. Now, we do think from watching their games that this defense does play pretty lazily because they're ahead in almost all the games fairly easy. So, we'll be interested to see how they respond if this game is close in this one. So, what's our best bet in this primetime matchup between two top 15 teams here? Well, in line here, the line at the moment is 3.5 for TCU, which we think is pretty generous, honestly, for Kansas State. TCU has been a much more balanced offense, and Kansas State won't even be able to exploit the weakest part of TCU's defense because of the lack of a passing game that they hold. TCU should control this one from the start and win this one decisively to take full control over the top spot in the Big 12. So, with our final best bet, we've already preluded to this for Saturday. We're going to take TCU minus 3.5 over Kansas State. Well, that's it for us here at Grandstand Bettors. As always, sit back, relax, enjoy Week 8 of college football, and we'll see you right back here, same time, same place, next week.